This is the continuation of what happens after the anime of Classroom of the Elite. First, let's recap what was animated in the light novels. Season 1 mainly adapted Year 1 volumes 1 to 3. Season 2 adapted volumes 4 to 7.5. Season 3 closed the first year by adapting volumes 8 to 11.5. And Season 4 enters the second year, adapting Year 2 volumes 1 to 4. That means we now continue directly from Year 2 volume 4.5. These new volumes starts right after the island exam. The students rest on a luxury cruise ship, but in this school there is never real rest. Nagumo starts watching Ayano Kouyi because he now sees him as a threat. Kiriyama explains that Nagumo controls the third-year students using private points. Meanwhile, Sakayanagi warns Ichinose that her kindness can be used by others. Later, when Ayano Kouyi was about to answer Ichinose's confession, Nagumo tells her that Ayano Kouyi is already dating Kei. Ichinose is completely crushed. Later, Ayano Kouyi wins points in a treasure hunt and gives part of them to Kushida to keep their agreement. In the end, Tsukishiro asks him one last time if he will leave the school. Ayano Kouyi refuses, and it becomes clear that the problem with his father is far from over. Now we move to Year 2 Volume 5. This volume brings one of the cruelest exams, the unanimous vote exam. The class must keep voting until everyone agrees, and the final question is brutal. Would they expel a classmate to gain class points? Ayano Kouyi discovers that Kushida was the one blocking the vote. He exposes her in front of everyone. Kushida loses her mask and reveals the secrets of several classmates, but Horikita decides not to expel her. She believes Kushida can still be useful, so Ayano Kouyi chooses Airi Sakura. Airi accepts her expulsion so the class can move forward. The class gains points, but it is left broken. Haruka does not forgive Ayano Kouyi or Horikita, and from this point on, everyone begins to understand that Ayano Kouyi can cut anyone off if necessary. Now we move to Year 2 Volume 6. After Airi's expulsion, the class is destroyed. Kushida, Haruka, and Michan stop coming to class. Horikita has to prove that saving Kushida was worth it. With Ibuki's help, she manages to bring Kushida back. But Kushida no longer pretends to be the perfect girl. Now everyone knows she is dangerous. Then the sports festival arrives. Horikita allies with Ryuen to bring down Sakayanagi. Sudo shows how much he has matured, and Amasawa makes it clear that her physical ability is on another level. Horikita's class wins the sports festival, but Ayano Kouyi thinks about something important. When Horikita grows enough, he will leave her class, and one day he will become her enemy. Now we move to Year 2 Volume 7. The cultural festival arrives. Horikita's class prepares a maid cafe. Ryuen breaks the alliance and prepares a rival cafe. But Ayano Kouyi moves everything from the shadows. First, he stops Haruka and Akito from leaving the school. He shows them that Airi is trying to move forward outside the school. Then he uses Shabashira dressed as a maid to boost the cafe's sales. But the most important event happens in the student council room. Horikita, Nagumo, Ryuen, and several teachers corner Yagami. Yagami loses control and reveals his true strength. But Ayano Kouyi had already prepared everything. Yagami is removed from the school without Ayano Kouyi having to fight him directly. Now we move to Year 2 Volume 8. The school organizes a trip to Hokkaido. In theory, it is only a school trip, but it helps move relationships between classes. Sudo finally confesses to Horikita. She rejects him, but she recognizes how much he has changed. Sudo does not break down. Instead, he decides to keep improving. We also hear about Ishigami, a first-year student indirectly connected to Ayano Kouyi's father. But the most important moment is Ichinose. She disappears in the snow. Ayano Kouyi finds her completely broken. Ichinose feels that her way of leading no longer works. Ayano Kouyi embraces her and keeps her standing. But as always, it is not only kindness. He needs Ichinose to keep moving forward for the future board he is building. Now we move to Year 2 Volume 9. A cooperative written exam arrives. Horikita's class faces Sakayanagi, and Ichinose's class faces Ryuen. Horikita uses a smart strategy and manages to defeat Sakayanagi, but the biggest change is Ichinose. Ryuen tries to sabotage her, but this time Ichinose does not break. She defeats him, and she proves that she is no longer the naive girl from before. After that, Ichinose makes it clear to Kei that there is still nothing between her and Ayano Koi, but it can change in the future. And later, under the rain, she tells Ryuen that before he expels her classmates, she will expel him first. Now we move to Year 2, Volume 9.5. During winter break, the relationship between Ayano Koi and Kei becomes colder. Kei gets sick, and Ayano Koi spends Christmas almost alone. During this time, Ichinose gets closer to him. Sakayanagi also confesses that she likes Ayano Koi as a man. And Hashimoto starts investigating whether Ayano Koi could be recruited into Class A. Hiyori also appears. She gives Ayano Koi a special book written by her father. And here, it starts to become clear that Hiyori is turning into someone different for him. Not like Kei. Not like Ichinose. Something quieter, but deeper. Now we move to Year 2, Volume 10. The survival and elimination exam arrives. The classes attack each other with questions. Only the class in first place gains points, and the class in last place must expel someone. Ryuen wins the exam thanks to leaked information. Ichinose repeatedly attacks Kei to force Horikita to protect her and push Sakayanagi to the bottom. Sakayanagi's class ends up in last place, and by lottery, Kamuro is expelled. After that, it is revealed that Hashimoto was a traitor. He leaked information to Ryuen because he wanted to force Sakayanagi to recognize Ayano Koi's value. But the result is clear. Sakayanagi loses Kamuro, and for the first time, that loss truly affects her. Now we move to Year 2, Volume 11. After Sakayanagi's fall, a social exchange camp begins. There are no expulsions. There are no huge punishments, but many pieces still move. Ayano Koi competes against Nagumo in several activities and gets 17 personal victories. Nagumo wins the group event, but he understands that individually, Ayano Koi is on another level. We also see Yamamura step out of her invisibility. She talks with Sakayanagi and starts searching for her own place. In the end, Sakayanagi and Ryuen make a brutal bet. In the final exam of the second year, the loser between them must leave the school. Now we move to Year 2, Volume 12. The final exam of the second year begins. Each class chooses 3 representatives: Vanguard, Middle Guard, and General. Horikita's class faces Ichinose. Ryuen's class faces Sakayanagi. Horikita fights well, but Ichinose destroys her. This exam is about reading people, and in that area, Ichinose is terrifying. Ayano Koi enters as the general. He hugs Horikita to calm her down, and then faces Ichinose. Meanwhile, Ryuen and Sakayanagi reach their final duel. Sakayanagi could have won, but she understands a hidden message from Ayano Koi. He does not want to face her in the third year, so Sakayanagi lets herself loose. Ryuen wins, but he knows Ayano Koi interfered from the shadows. Then Ayano Koi uses Ichinose to expose Maesono as the traitor. Maesono is expelled. Ichinose is destroyed because she trusted him. And Horikita's class wins the exam, but at a horrible price. Now we move to Year 2, Volume 12.5. This volume closes the second year. Sakayanagi leaves the school. Kei and Ayano Koi have one final date, and Ayano Koi ends the relationship. He goes back to calling her Karuizawa, and she goes back to calling him Ayano Koi-kun. Then Ayano Koi's father appears during the parent meeting. Koenji's father also appears and gives him a condition. If Koenji wants true freedom, he must graduate from Class A. That means Koenji may finally start moving seriously. Later, Ayano Koi goes to see Ichinose. She seemed broken, but in reality, she comes back even more dangerous. She does not abandon her class. She does not abandon her ideals. But she decides to use Ayano Koi as an ally. Finally, Ayano Koi uses 20 million private points and transfers to Sakayanagi's former class. Horikita reaches Class A. But right when she reaches the top, she loses Ayano Koi. And Ayano Koi goes from being her hidden ally to becoming her future enemy. Now we move to Year 3, Volume 1. The third year begins. Horikita is finally in Class A, but Ayano Koi does not appear. Chabashira announces that he transferred to Class 3C. Sakayanagi's former class. The class falls into chaos. Kei is devastated, and Horikita goes out to search for answers. Horikita finds Ayano Kouji with Hashimoto, Morishita, and Ichinose, but he gives her no explanation. He only makes it clear that his transfer is real. Then his plan is revealed. Ayano Kouji's class C and Ichinose's class D will form an alliance to balance the board. The first exam of the third year is academic. Ichinose defeats Horikita, and Ayano Kouji defeats Ryuen in the full class section. Although Ryuen uses penalties to make Ayano Kouji officially lose an individual duo. Ayano Kouji scores 100 points, but because of the penalty, his final score becomes 0. He loses on the scoreboard, but he wins by showing his true power. Now we move to Year 3 Volume 2. This volume reveals more about Nanase's past. She was manipulated by Tsukishiro to approach Ayano Kouji. At first, she wanted revenge, but now she wants to stop Ayano Kouji from becoming something even worse. Meanwhile, Ayano Kouji tries to integrate into Class C. He gets to know Shimazaki Yoshida, Shiraishi, and Yamamura better. He also begins to notice that he does not fully understand love, and that becomes important because of Hiyori. Horikita tries to rebuild her class without Ayano Kouji. She talks with Kei, she negotiates with Koenji, and she starts investigating the connection between Yagami, Amasawa, and the White Room. But the most important part is Hiyori. Ayano Kouji looks for her in the library. He gives her a red poppy. Hiyori cries from happiness, and Ayano Kouji starts to feel something he cannot properly explain. Maybe something close to love. Now we move to Year 3 Volume 3. The school returns to the uninhabited island, but this time, the exam is a survival war with paintball guns. Each class has a commander, VIPs, and a map divided into zones. Ryuen strikes first. He ambushes Ayano Kouji's class and leaves it almost destroyed. But Ayano Kouji uses that defeat to convince his class to accept the alliance with Ichinose. Horikita controls the northern part of the island well, but Ayano Kouji discovers her VIPs and shares the information. Class A falls. Koenji also breaks part of the board by acting on his own. In the end, Ryuen faces Ayano Kouji. It looks like he finally has him cornered, but Ayano Kouji had kept one last paintball in his hand. They eliminate each other at the same time. The final result leaves Ichinose in first place, Ayano Kouji in second, Ryuen in third, and Horikita in last place. But the island is not over yet. The school announces another exam, one based on trust, betrayal, and expulsions. Now we move to Year 3 Volume 4. After the paintball war, the token collection exam begins. Each student must collect tokens. If someone reaches 0, they are expelled. And at the end, the student with the lowest number of tokens in the entire grade also falls. Ryuen prepares a cruel trap. He uses Hiyori as bait. He leaves her with almost no tokens to force Ayano Kouji to choose. He can win the exam, or he can save her. Meanwhile, Kushida moves against Shinohara. She uses the token system to push her to the bottom. And in the end, Shinohara finishes last. She is expelled. Ike is destroyed, and Horikita once again carries the weight of having saved Kushida in the past. Ayano Kouji arrives in time to save Hiyori. He transfers tokens to her, but by doing that, he gives up his own victory. Ryuen did not defeat him directly, but he achieved something just as important. He forced Ayano Kouji to move because of an emotion, and that changes everything, because Ayano Kouji was always able to cut anyone off. But with Hiyori, it no longer seems that simple, and Hiyori becomes someone capable of making Ayano Kouji act in a way even he does not fully understand. Ayano Kouji is no longer just observing. Now he is at the center of the war, and for the first time, maybe he has a weakness. And well, that is the full summary of what happens after Classroom of the Elite Season 4. If you want me to make another video explaining the next volume when it comes out, let's set a goal of 5,000 likes. Do not forget to subscribe, turn on the bell, and leave a comment telling me which moment surprised you the most.